Hello. Today I'm going to be reviewing Injustice, the 2021 animated film directed by Matt Peters. Now, I'm given to understand that this movie is based off the game Injustice: Gods Among Us, which I think itself was based off one of the comics. However, I've not played the game, I'm not familiar with the game, and I haven't read the comics either, so I haven't had any exposure to this story before the movie. So this is going to be a review of the movie on its own. It's not going to account for the other things. Quick little aside, I just want to let you guys know that I have started a second channel where I'll post any random game clips I feel like sharing. I do occasionally get some clips that I want to post, but I don't think they really fit in with my reviews, so I wanted to keep them separate. If you're interested in random game clips, then you can check it out. Anyway, let me jump into an overview of the plot. So, to give a very basic rundown of the plot, the Joker puts his plan into motion to mess with Superman and corrupt him. He ends up going to Metropolis and he kidnaps Lois Lane, and Superman ends up chasing after him. However, the Joker uses special scarecrow toxin mixed with kryptonite, which affects Superman and makes him see Doomsday. So Superman, attacks Doomsday, but it's revealed that it was actually Lois and that he was just saying things because of the scarecrow gas. And by killing Lois, it sets off a bomb which blows up Metropolis, killing millions of people. Now this ends up sending Superman down a pretty dark path. So he goes to pay the Joker a visit and kills him. So most of the movie sort of follows Superman and Batman. Batman is adamant that you should never kill anyone and all that. However, after what the Joker did, Superman, he sort of stops holding back a bit and starts to take some more direct action to protect the people of Earth. Superman basically goes and, all by himself, arrests dictators, and he ends up speaking to the United Nations and telling everyone that there is to be no more wars and all hostilities are to cease. As the story progresses, more and more bad things start to happen, and Superman gets pushed further and further down this dark path. Soon enough, he's become a tyrant, essentially, forcing the world into a police state, all in the name of protecting everyone. Meanwhile, Batman ends up kind of on the run because he wants to put a stop to Superman's tyranny. Superman ends up considering him an enemy at some point. The whole movie is sort of like this steep descent as things get worse and worse, and Superman gets more deluded and starts doing more bad things. This all culminates in him end up working with Ra's al Ghul, who makes him a robot that can learn and adapt and utilize different superpowers and all that. And it's essentially like a robot Superman. It's like a robot with all of Superman's powers. Superman deploys it in a small town to test its effectiveness, where it's meant to monitor the area and make sure no crimes happen and inflict Superman's will. So when this robot spots someone littering, it chooses violence and obliterates the man. The situation quickly escalates and Superman ends up coming in to put a stop to it. He tries to tell Ra's al Ghul to shut it down, but then, surprise, surprise, Ra's is actually a bad guy, so there's no way he's going to do that. So then our heroes have to team up to fight this robot thing, which proves to be very, very powerful and is strong enough to basically best most of the heroes. It ends up killing a few of them as well. But thanks to the combined effort of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and a few other superheroes, they end up managing to eventually destroy the robot. And Superman's looking like he's going to arrest Batman now because he still thinks he's a fugitive. But then they bring in another Superman from an alternate universe, and the two Supermans fight each other for a bit before they bring in Lois Lane from another universe. And then that ends up getting our Superman to realise the error of his ways, and he has that "what have I done" moment, and then the movie ends. So yeah, overall, it was very interesting and compelling with its sort of the moral questions it raises. More so towards the start, where Superman's not necessarily in the wrong yet. There's sort of a greyish area where you could argue what he's doing is sort of right. However, it does end up leading to a steady decline in his morality. By the end, he's doing some pretty bad things. But there's that sweet spot in the middle where there's a lot of room for like moral and ethical discussion, I guess. Lots of the characters, lots of the heroes do discuss some of these issues. And it's really interesting to see these conflicting opinions on things. And there are some interesting questions. Like, for example, killing the Joker. Was that wrong or was it right? This is right after the Joker kills several million people. And Batman just takes him back to Arkham Asylum. But like, how many times does Batman take Joker back to Arkham Asylum and he just escapes? You know, Arkham Asylum is sort of like a revolving door prison. The villains go in and then they go out. So is Superman in the wrong for killing him? Batman seems to think so, but others would disagree. And this is the kind of moral questions that I find really intriguing. No matter which side of the fence you sit on, that sort of greyish area that where it's up to your own interpretation, what you think is right, that's really compelling. That's what I really like in stories. In particular, there's a few really good scenes that I liked. There's this one towards the start where you have most of the Justice League people, and they sort of, they're talking about Joker's death and how they feel about that. And yeah, as I said, really interesting discussion, really interesting talking point. Another really good scene. So Superman, at this point, what he wants to do is he wants to get rid of guns all across the world so people can't use them for violence. So he talks to this hero who he thinks can help him. And they start playing a game of chess. And Superman's like asking him for help. And then this hero ends up countering by pointing out these other things which cause a lot of deaths. So you should get rid of them and punish them.
Think of the lives we'd save. Check.
Smoking. What? Cigarettes kill far more. People keep smoking even though they know it's killing them. Their families can only watch them die.
And?
You want to save lives? Jail every smoker. Check.
And it goes from, guns to cigarettes, speeding and stuff, littering. And as he brings up each point, he makes a chess move that puts Superman in check. And finally, once his point is made, checkmate. And Superman doesn't really have a counter to that.
You're not going to help me, are you?
No, sir. I am not.
And it kind of does show that slippery slope. That's the main issue here. And the main point that Batman makes is it's a slippery slope. Once you do one thing, it's easier to do the next. Which is the main reason why he refuses to kill anyone. Superman's descent from a paragon of virtue into a tyrant. It was handled mostly believably. I say mostly. See, early on, a lot of the decisions he makes, they make sense given just how much damage the Joker did. Like, for example, he wants to move some of the most dangerous criminals from Arkham Asylum to a different prison of his own choosing, where they won't be able to escape and cause harm. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's fairly reasonable. In fact, it's probably a lot better than what Batman does. Or how about the fact that Superman decides to put an end to wars and stuff? I mean, him acting as an arbiter of justice for everyone across the entire world, you could argue it's very immoral. At the end of the day, what he's doing it to protect people, and he believes it's protecting people. It does sort of make sense that he would jump to that conclusion. However, there is a scene where he ends up stumbling across this group of people who are like partying hard one night in this like a warehouse or something. They're all like dressed up as the Joker and stuff. Superman goes in, tells them to stop. One of them ends up like throwing a glass bottle at him. Superman ends up massacring everyone at this party, which felt very out of character. Him killing the Joker at the start of the movie, that made sense given what the Joker had just done. Later on in the movie, Superman's dad, he ends up getting killed when Superman deflects an arrow from Green Arrow that Green Arrow loosed at him. That prompts Superman to kill Green Arrow. Superman's obviously very emotional here, and he's already been gone down a dark path, so that makes sense. Superman massacring an entire warehouse full of random citizens because they're having a party, that just doesn't feel right. It's a bit of a leap. It doesn't make that much sense. Overall, it's a really interesting, compelling watch, particularly the start, the middle, but towards the end, it does sort of peter off a bit. The ending fight's just sort of a little disappointing. So you have most of our heroes, including Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, fighting against the robot that Ra's al Ghul made. Meanwhile, Robin has to do a one-on-one against Ra's al Ghul. However, he's helped by the ghost of Nightwing, who possesses him to help him fight. But overall, the ending was just sort of not that compelling, really. Like the final robot thing was just sort of a random thing to fight. It wasn't that interesting of a villain. And Ra's al Ghul was also just sort of a bit of a random villain to throw in. Like the villains themselves weren't really that connected to the plot, I guess. And then you have the fight with Superman against Superman, which was sort of interesting as well, but again, sort of random. And I don't know if they actually needed to do it because that didn't actually seem to help. It was only after they brought in a Lois Lane from an alternate universe that Superman actually stopped. I don't know why they didn't just do that first. I guess they thought maybe a Superman would convince Superman, and when that didn't work, they realised, oh, let's go with Lois Lane. Also, once Superman realises the error of his ways, the movie just sort of ends. Maybe it could have been interesting to just show a little bit of the aftermath, just a little bit, to see what happens afterwards, maybe. I feel like they could have stuck around for a couple more minutes just to at least show things going back to normal a bit, I guess, and Superman, having a bit more time to express his regrets over what he's done. Now, overall, the movie felt very rushed. I think the general story was pretty good, but the movie kind of speeds through the plot a bit quickly. The whole movie just sort of felt really rushed, and the movie was only like a bit less than an hour and 20 minutes, I think. I think they could have maybe paced it out a little better, made it just a little bit longer and paced it out just so it didn't feel so rushed. And yeah, they should have added a bit more to the ending. That's my thoughts on Injustice. I do recommend the movie. I think it's pretty good. It does, as I mentioned, have a couple issues. So I'd say it's good, but not great. Definitely room for improvement. It's still a pretty reasonable watch, especially the first half, which I think was really well done, really good. And then, yeah, unfortunately in the second half, it just sort of peters out a bit. Wasn't quite as good. But yeah, that's it for my review. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to let me know what you think of this movie down in the comments. I'd love to see what you all think. And anyway, I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.